Good morning. Welcome again to you here in the room, and welcome for those joining online now at Politico's Competitive Europe Summit. I'm Barbara Moons. I'm our Chief EU Correspondent covering general EU affairs, which means that in the next 5 years, again, we'll be talking a lot about Europe's competitiveness. And I'm very happy to be joined here by Enrico Letta, who you all know as the former Italian Prime Minister and the author of the famous report on the single market, and you just had a new job yesterday, we saw, so congratulations on that as well. Mr. Letta, the last time we spoke was in April, just after you released your report and presented it to European leaders. Obviously, since then, a lot has happened. We now have a new European Commission, which will start shortly. We have political guidelines. We have a whole debate on Europe's competitiveness. How do you take stock of it, the debate right now, after also the months that you have toured a lot of Europe talking about your report?
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be here also for the reason why Politico accompanied me in the journey around Europe, and I was very happy to share with you and with your colleagues many opportunities of the evolution of the thoughts and the ideas of the report. The 5 months since April to now are 5 months with some, in my view, minus and some plus. The plus, the most important plus is that it was not for granted to be here October the 1st with the new commission ready to start hearings. I remember the discussions at that time in April. The discussions were more pessimistic on the political chaos in Europe, with the idea who, when, how. I would like to underline this point because sometimes we are too much focused on the day by day, but this point, in my view, is a plus. So we were able, even with our complicated system, to be fast and to be today ready, or almost ready. The other plus is the fact, or maybe I add some minus. One minus is the fact that some national elections were, in my view, on the wrong way, showing that it's very complicated today, the debate around sovereignty, national sovereignty, and everything is there. Everything, again, is on the famous 16 UK slogan, take back control. We are still in 16, if I may say. This is my pessimistic guess today. The true plus is the fact that von der Leyen decided to take some of the proposal of the report, and the same with Draghi's report, and to put this proposal at the center of the speech that she gave with the confidence vote that she received, and to put it or some of these ideas in the roadmaps to the 26 commissioners. Mm-hmm. And that is, for me, a crucial and very important plus. And I have to say also, other plus is the fact that the European Parliament is starting with I would say, the good steps on this point. I was yesterday afternoon in a great event in the European Parliament discussing about how to implement this idea of having a high-speed train network at the European level. That is, in my view, a great flagship for the... and I don't know if I have to put on the plus and on the minus. I'm continuing traveling around Europe, discussing the report, presenting the report. That's a good signal. There's interest, and I feel great support from stakeholders, and a good interest, a good debate.
There seems to be more political will, right, with this new commission and with the current state of mind to do, as you said, broadening, deepening the single market. But then if we drill into certain examples in your report, but also of recent weeks, for example, the idea of a common financial market where, again, there seems to be more consensus, but then you have Germany opposing an Italian bank taking over a German bank, and the difference between theory and practice all of a sudden seems very, very large. How did you look at that concrete case?
This case is a very interesting test. I'm very happy that we have immediately a test because it is the way to be very clear on where we are. And, you know,
And where we are seems Europe is not ready to do what it says it wants to do.
Okay, we will see the end of the story. We will see the end of the story. It is clear that there's a link between political debates, domestic debates, domestic wording, and then facts. We will be the facts, and we will comment the facts. It's not an easy test because we never had such a, I would say, such a movement in the European landscape on the financial and banking system since I don't know which was the last one, maybe. BNP Paribas buying BNL, but this is a big move after 15 years, and for me it's a good signal. It's a signal that something is happening among the stakeholders, and the stakeholders are decisive here. In the Palio di Siena, I don't know if you know how the Palio di Siena works. There's a crucial moment. The crucial moment is La Mossa del Mossiere, the moment in which, after hours of chaos, preparations, there's this magical moment when the race starts. And maybe now this deal, this Italo-German deal, can be the Mossa del Mossiere that can make the race, the Palio di Siena, starting.
Okay. Optimism is a moral duty. If I can drill down on some other suggestions that you have done in your report and how they're now being politically translated, your idea of an EU-level state aid plan, what were the reactions to that in your tour of capitals, and how do you see that now being translated into the state aid discussions for the new Commission?
The topic was one of the topics that was at the center of the discussion in member states. Of course, the discussion is how to implement it, because it's a general idea. It depends on how we can implement it. But I have the feeling that everywhere in Europe, there's this need to find common solutions. Because when I was traveling around, I had the feeling that there's, yes, this national flag of national sovereignty, taking back control and everything, but there's also the concrete need to have solutions. And that was one potential solution. I know they are studying, they are discussing. Another one for me, maybe the most important one, and I can tell you that this is the one that received the biggest attention in my second tour, the presentation tour. It was the idea of this European Delaware, the 28th virtual state on corporate law and on a European corporate law, with the idea to have a 28th virtual state, not opening the impossible fight between a European one and the national one. It's impossible to cancel the national corporate laws because of history, because everything. But it is possible to give stakeholders, to give the business world, the possibility to have a sort of passepartout, optional passepartout, giving the possibility to use this passepartout for SMEs, first of all. That was the way in which I put the proposal in the report, mostly for SMEs, because SMEs are not taking advantage of the single market. There are so many evidences of that, because the single market is complicated for them. 27 fiscal system, 27 corporate laws, and so on. And also for international investors and big companies. I was impressed by the attention that I received on this proposal from American investors, for instance, telling me that that's interesting for us, because you finally understood that we can't invest in Europe only because we love Europe, with all the obstacles that you put for our 400 meters hurdles.
And if you say that you're feeling in your discussions that there's interest in this, is that already translating into certain capitals? Spain, I think.
No, for me, the most important part of that was the fact that von der Leyen decided to put this specific point of the 28th virtual state in the speech. So this is something that received the confidence vote of the European Parliament. Yeah. And our democracy works like that. So the majority of the European Parliament voted in favor of that. For me, it's a good signal. It's a good signal. Now we can start thinking on how to do it. Of course, it's a method that we can apply on many potential issues. But what I would like to share with you is the fact that in the presentations, the discussions I had the feeling that was perceived as something really interesting. And I had the feeling that many national national economic environment decided to put pressure on their national governments to consider this idea and to push for this idea.
Okay. I'd also want to touch on competition policy, given that the shift there will also be a key issue in these next 5 years. There is this tension between making sure that we have big enough European companies to stand up towards the US and China, at the same time not undermining the single market. How do you look at the shift that this new commission is doing, and also the face of that shift, if I may say so, with Teresa Ribera?
Thank you for the question. That gives me the opportunity to clarify one point that was maybe not completely clarified in the discussion we had after the report, and I'm sure that for Draghi is the same. My report is not against competition. My report is in favor of competition, but competition at a higher level. Because on telecom, for instance, if you ask me which is your dream, I tell you my dream, and I'm sure that any consumer in Europe could be comfortable with this dream, is to say from the 80 today's operators with 27 plus a different number. I have 2 phones, one plus 39, one plus 33. Now I will add a third one, a plus 34. I think it's a little bit crazy. Maybe it's my fault, but why don't we start moving to a plus 0? The American, they took the 1, so we can take the 0, or the 2, maybe. Avoiding this national plus, there's no reason to have a national plus. The only reason is the fees for the national treasury. But we can guarantee governments that they will have the national fees in any way, and avoiding for the consumer. They say, why is for consumers? Because we can move from 70, 80, that are in reality only 3 or 4 or 5 for each consumer, and each consumer treated in a completely different way. 4 in Slovenia and 5 in Italy. Of course, Slovenia and Italy are different dimensions. So moving to a system where you have one single market, I don't know, with 20 or 15 or 30 operators, and you as consumer, you can choose among them, so you have competition. You have strong competition. But at the same time, companies can have the scale and the dimension that they don't have. So the architecture that I'm proposing, for instance, on this topic, is exactly to move in that direction. And it is the way, finally, to eliminate borders. You mentioned Unicredit Commerzbank. I can use this, I would say, podium and this opportunity to ask a big, big please to all our European system. You can agree or not agree with this merger, but please stop naming this merger as a cross-border merger. It is not. It is a merger. Full point. because we are in Europe, and the borders are in our minds, not in the reality.
Yeah. And do you feel that shift in mentality, you started with your pluses and minuses, right? As you said, this is the start of the new commission, which is faster than expected. At the same time, we still have this national sovereignty discussion. Do you feel that shift in mentality is happening with the leaders that you speak to, with the politicians that you speak to, because of this competition with the US and China, or we're still not there yet?
Yeah, I think the most important part of the presentations I had, and the part that created the biggest interest, this is my feeling, everywhere, from Estonia to Portugal, was the part on the costs that we are paying because of the fragmentation. And there are so many evidences of these costs in terms of, I would say, wasting growth, wasting competitiveness, giving a lot of jobs creation gifts to our American friends, to the Chinese, to the Indians, the Turkish, the South Koreans, and so on. We are very generous in Europe. We are very generous, and I don't understand why they don't love us, because we are so generous with the US. We are in the last period of the 2.5 years of Ukrainian war, we created an incredible number of jobs in the US on the defense industry, buying their military furniture, and the same in Turkey, and the same in South Korea. And they were not so generous with us, because our figure is 80% of what we spent on military furniture was to create and to buy and to help jobs creation out of Europe. And the American figure on similar amount of money was 88% jobs creation in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, and so on, and just 12% out of the US, not in Europe, out of the US. So I think this is an example. There are many other examples. The example of the financial services, the fact that each digital transaction is on American platforms. All the topic of the savings going to the US and strengthening the American market. There are so many examples of the fact that raising the national protectionistic flag makes happy Wall Street, the Chinese, and the Indians. This is, in my view, the main topic. We have to raise and we have to explain, but when you have 2 minutes to explain these figures and these topics, there's no reaction to that, because there's not a counter reaction. It is the truth. The national and the nationalistic economic sovereignism is making happy Wall Street and the Chinese, full stop.
And one area where we'll see that play out is the defense investments, or the discussion and the money that's now pouring into more of a defense industry in Europe, which in theory would be much more efficient if you do it from Europe as a whole, but again, you have these national sensitivities. How do you see this discussion playing out specifically in defense?
A good point, and a point that allows me to say that one point that I was surprised was not perceived, or I would say focused or underlined in my report, is the proposal I put to use the ESM for defense. And I take this opportunity to relaunch this proposal. The ESM is there in Luxembourg, very good people, good leader, Gramegna, very good, good staff, a lot of money there. I know very well that there's also my country responsible for that, but totally useless in the European landscape. And I think we are not in condition to, I would say, to waste money, opportunities, tools. We created this tool. And that was, in my view, one of the most important reaction to the crisis, to the financial crisis. So why don't we use the ESM for defense? We say that the ESM is an emergency tool, is a sort of Red Cross, is a sort of, we used to say, an embryon of the IMF, European IMF, and so on. I think what is happening today is an emergency on defense. It is so clear. So why don't we use the ESM for this emergency? Of course, I know very well that there's an issue related to the relationship between the 20 and the other 7. But we can find a way to arrange it. It can give DSM a new life, new mission, purpose, a higher purpose. It can also arrange countries, because it's the way to avoid complicated arbitrage, political, internal arbitrage on that. So why don't we use this idea? And I thank you for the question, because for me it's a good opportunity to relaunch it.
To try to put it back on the agenda, okay. Maybe to close, I would like to go a bit more into the Draghi report and the discussion we have on how to finance Europe's competitiveness. We have a new budget, European budget coming up, a lot of discussion about how much European money we should invest in this transition. How do you see that debate at this point, and do you agree with Draghi on the need for such massive investments?
I like Draghi's report. I think our two reports are in very positive dialogue. I think that the main topic today is how to deal with this issue on how to finance the needs. And I can tell you that my journey around Europe, from south to north, from east to west, was useful for me to understand one point, and I would like to take the last 3 minutes to share this point, because in my view is the crucial point. In reality, there is not a debate in Europe on that. I don't see the debate. The debate is on other issues, the political core of the debate. Why? Because in reality, this debate doesn't exist at national level. Why? Because there's not a single country where this debate is a divisive one. It is not a divisive one for a very simple reason. Because there are two blocks of countries. And in the two block of countries, you don't have a cleavage left and right on the solution. The complicated issue is that the solutions are two, and they are totally opposite. So you have countries like mine, like Spain, like France, like all these countries, with the idea that, okay, we have to think about a new next generation EU. Yeah. And there's not a big debate, left and right. There's general agreement on that. And so you don't have the debate. Even in the electoral campaign, you didn't have any debate on that. And then you have other countries, the Nordic countries, the Netherlands, even Germany, where on Next Generation EU is very simple. The reaction I received everywhere was once in a lifetime. And then they agree on a set of solutions on how, because they agree on the fact that we have to finance the transition. Yeah. It's so clear, and the common goods. And the solutions are national in terms of public money or private money. And left and right, there's a large agreement on that. So my key point is that if we continue with this, there was this French term, la drôle de guerre. It seems to me that we will continue not dealing with the true problem. The true problem is that we need to have a solution on that. And we need to say how to finance this transition, how to find this money. My proposal on Savings and Investments Union is the way to, first of all, to be aware of this big cleavage we have in Europe, and to try to bridge and to create a solution that can be a win-win, having part of public money, part of private money, knowing that the Savings and Investments Union today is part of von der Leyen roadmap, is part of Stéphane Séjourné mission, is the biggest part of Stéphane Séjourné mission, and for me it's a very good news, and I'm very confident that Séjourné can lead this part, and we can find a solution. But it's the only way is to go straight to the point and to try to have this discussion. So I hope we can open this discussion, because the discussion today is a closed box, and I think it is not the right way to have a discussion that is absolutely decisive.
Okay, that could be a way to square the circle. Okay, with that, I would like to thank you so much, Mr. Letta, for coming here, joining us for this discussion. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I invite you to a networking break. We'll resume here at 12 for our policy spotlight discussion on protecting the bloc's critical assets with my tech colleague, Peter Hack. Thank you so much.
United in diversity. We are very heterogeneous in our opinion.
If we do not renew our partnerships with the rest of the world, Europe will not be relevant.
We can make it if we are together as Europeans.
Do you genuinely believe that countries will manage to reach these very ambitious targets?